Hello everyone. In this screencast, we will be discussing carbohydrates. And by the word carbohydrates, the general formula for carbohydrates is CH2O. Okay, carbon and then hydrates or water. And the carbohydrates are found in a wide array of both healthy and unhealthy foods. We have our sugar, fibers, yung mga starches, bread, rice, potatoes, pasta, yan, soft drinks, those are carbohydrates. And carbohydrates are important part of a healthy diet. No? It provides us energy. The carbohydrates that we eat is converted into energy that is used by our body to support our cells. So again, the general formula for carbohydrates is CH2O. Okay? So usually, CHO, makita nyo CHO, that is carbohydrates. Okay? So one of the example of carbohydrate is glucose. And glucose contains 6 carbons. Okay? So, by this general formula, we can identify the molecular formula of glucose. So, times nyo lang siya sa 6. So, ang molecular formula for glucose is C6H12O6. Okay? So, this is the molecular formula for hexoses. Hexoses meaning 6, oses meaning sugar. Okay? Hindi lang naman si glucose ang sugar na merong 6 carbon. How about si ribose? So, I know familiar kayo kay ribose. It is a part of DNA and RNA, right? Deoxyribose in DNA and then ribose in RNA. Ribose is a pentose sugar. So, meaning, meron siyang 5 carbons. So, you will know what is the molecular formula for ribose, which is C5H10O5. Okay? So, dito, ito yung pentoses. This is the molecular formula for pentoses. Pentose, 5, oses, again, sugar. Okay? Again, carbohydrates, hydrates of carbon. For the learning outcomes, by the end of this screencast, you will be able to discuss the occurrence and general functions of carbohydrates, define chirality and stereoisomerism, explain the importance of chirality, identify the different monosaccharides, convert Fischer projection formulas to Hayward projection formulas, describe disaccharides, oligosaccharides, and polysaccharides, describe the general characteristics of polysaccharides, and identify the different storage, structural, and acidic polysaccharides. Now, carbohydrate is under the bioorganic substance, right? And it composes about 2% of the human body mass. The primary function of carbohydrates in humans is to provide energy via oxidation of glucose molecules. So, when we eat carbohydrates, kapag kumain tayo ng carbohydrates, for example, rice, kapag kumain tayo ng rice is starch yan, composed of starch, no? Which is a polysaccharide, meaning many units of monosaccharides. No, it is a complex carbohydrates. So these polysaccharides will undergo catabolic reaction. It will undergo digestion, no, hydrolysis, no, magbe-break down yung mga polysaccharides into monosaccharides, which is our glucose. And then it will absorb by our body, ma-absorb siya ng ating dugo, ng ating blood, and it will transported throughout our body para magamit ng ating mga cells. So yung mga glucose, by the use of insulin, it will enter the cell, and doon sa loob ng cell, magkakaroon ng oxidation reactions, no? Yung glycolysis, it will break down. So si glucose, mabe-break down siya to produce energy, no? To produce ATP molecule. So yun yung pag-aaralan naman natin sa metabolism, no? Carbohydrate metabolism sa finals. Paano? Okay? How glucose give us energy. And then, for storage, okay, provides a short-term energy reserve. So, we have glycogen, no? Energy storage in the form of glycogen. So, si glycogen, it is a polysaccharide of glucose molecules. It is an energy reserve that can be quickly mobilized to meet a sudden need for glucose. So, for example, yung body mo, no, for example, nag-fasting ka, medyo mababa or wala na tayong glucose na gagamitin, we have the glycogen as our short-term. Okay? Take note that it is short-term energy reserve. Ang ating long-term energy reserve is triglyceride, no, yung mga fats. Kasi ang fats, mas madaming energy siyang maproproduce, pero matagal siya bago ma-convert into energy. No, may mga requirements pang molecules that is needed to the process. While si glycogen, it can easily break down into glucose, and then yung glucose na yon, again, it will converted into energy, no? For the production, it is used for the production of energy. Now, kapag nasobra naman sa glucose tayo, ang ginagawa naman ng ating body, gumagawa naman niya yun ng glycogen. No? I-store naman ng body natin for the future use. If ever na wala ka nang makain. No? Next is carbon supplier. Since si carbohydrates maraming carbons, so these carbons can be used for the synthesis of other chemical substances. Next, form part of the structural framework of DNA and RNA molecules. Again, we have the ribose, right? It is a pentose sugar. So, sa DNA, we have deoxyribose. And sa RNA, we have ribose. And we have linked to lipids. We call it glycolipids that are structural components of cell membrane. And linked to proteins, we call it glycoproteins. Function in variety of cell-to-cell and cell-to-molecule recognition processes. No, yung mga receptors, no, for recognition of a cell or of a molecule. Now, carbohydrates are polyhydroxyaldehyde or a polyhydroxyketone. When we say polyhydroxy, poly, diba, many, hydroxy, meaning OH, no? Yung hydroxyl, meron tayong hydroxyl group. Maraming OH. Polyhydroxyl. Or polyhydroxy ketone. So again, ang aldehyde, ito si aldehyde group, at ito si ketone group. Okay? So R, C, double bond, so oxygen, and then hydrogen, aldehyde. And then for ketone, we have RCR. So R stands for hydrocarbons. Example of polyhydroxyaldehyde is si glucose. And polyhydroxyketone naman, si fructose. So, yun yung difference ni glucose sa fructose. Glucose, aldehyde, fructose is a ketone. Both contain 6 carbon, no? Hexose sila. So, again, aldehyde versus ketone. This is the carbonyl group. So, aldehyde, hydrogen, ketone, another hydrocarbon is attached. Okay? So, aldehyde, hydrogen. So, these are the aldoses carbohydrates. Aldo means aldehyde, no? Oses meaning sugar. So, these are aldehyde sugars. This is an open chain. Ma-identify mo if aldehyde or ketone, si carbohydrate, kapag open chain, kapag ganito yung structure, if CHO, itong nasa taas. Okay? Ibig sabihin yan, ganyan siya. CHO. Next, we have ketosis or ketone sugars. Kapag ketone naman, CH2OH ang nakakabit, no, sa open chain. Now, let's go on to the carbohydrates classifications. And carbohydrates are classified on the basis of molecular size. Mono, oligo, poly, di. So again, based on the molecular size, we have monosaccharide, meaning 1 unit, okay? 1 sugar. Mono means 1, saccharide means sugar. So this is the monomer unit. It is the simplest carbohydrate, monosaccharide. It is the building blocks, okay? Building blocks of carbohydrates. Next, we have disaccharide. Di means 2, saccharides means sugar, so 2 units of monosaccharide, si disaccharide. And next, we have oligosaccharide, 3 to 10 monosaccharide units present, oligo. And then polysaccharide, meaning many, hundreds to thousands of monosaccharides units present. Disaccharide, oligosaccharide, and polysaccharides are hydrolyzed, no, meaning i-break down natin to form monosaccharide, no, via hydrolysis. Diba kapag sinabi natin hydrolysis, hydro means water, lysis is breakdown. So, i-breakdown natin tong mga disaccharide, oligosaccharide, and polysaccharide via hydrolysis, and that is why kailangan natin ng water para ma-digest yung ating mga kinakain. Kaya important si water. Now, focus tayo dito sa monosaccharide. Una, monosaccharide contains a single polyhydroxyaldehyde or polyhydroxyketone unit. And it cannot be hydrolyzed into simpler kasi nga siya na yung simplest, siya na yung monomer, siya na yung building blocks of carbohydrates, no? It cannot be hydrolyzed further. Naturally occurring monosaccharides have 3 to 7 carbon atoms. Pure monosaccharides are water-soluble, white, and crystalline solids. Example of monosaccharides, you already know this, glucose, fructose, and galactose. So, si glucose, siya ay aldose, fructose is a ketose, galactose is also aldose. Okay, aldehyde. Now, classification of monosaccharides based on the carbonyl group. Again, carbonyl group, kung aldehyde ba or ketone nakakabit, ay ang kanyang functional group. Aldose kapag aldehyde functional group, ketose kapag ketone functional group. Okay, ito yung carbonyl group. H kapag aldehyde, aldose, and then another hydrocarbon kapag ketone or ketose. Next, classification of monosaccharides based on the numbers of carbon. If the monosaccharides contains 3 carbon atoms, we call it triose, no? Trioses. Kapag 4, tetroses, 5 pentoses, 6 hexoses, and 7 heptoses. So again, diba yung mga naturally occurring monosaccharides, they have 3 to 7 carbon atoms only. Next, the handness concept. So this is very important in monosaccharides, no, in carbohydrates. The mirror images. Mirror images. Kapag sinabi nating hand, diba, refers to anything which cannot be identical on its own mirror images. So this is a reflection of an object in a mirror. We have two types of mirror images: the superimposable mirror images and non-superimposable mirror images. When we say superimposable mirror images, these are images that coincide at all points when the image are laid upon each other. So, kapag superimposable images, indistinguishable from their mirror images. Like this one. So, hindi mo siya ma-identify kung alin dyan yung mirror images, no? Since kapag tinapat mo siya sa mirror, same yung kanyang reflection, no? Identical. Same. Yung mirror images. And we call it a chiral. No, a chiral or non-chiral objects. Those are superimposable mirror images. While non-superimposable mirror images, these are images where not all points coincide when the images are laid upon each other. Meaning, you can distinguish kung alin yung mirror image, no? They are not identical and they are different. So, this example of non-superimposable image. We also call it chiral. Chiral objects, yung mga non-imposable mirror images, like your hands. So, kapag tinapat mo siya sa mirror, right? Hindi siya the same na makikita mo. No, merong left and merong right. Like this one. So, dito na papasok yung chirality. No, the word chirality is derived from the Greek word chir or chiral, no, which means hand. And again, hand refers to anything which cannot be identical on its own mirror images. it is distinguishable from its mirror image. We have this what we call the chiral center, which is the atom in a molecule that has 4 different groups tetrahedrally bonded to it. So in the next slide, we will be discussing chiral center. Chiral molecule, these are molecule whose mirror images are non-superimposable. Again, yung kanina lang. And then, a chiral molecule, yung mga superimposable mirror images. And chiral center is present only in chiral molecules. Now, chiral, okay, chiral center. Again, carbon atoms in which there are 4 different groups attached. So here, let's determine if these molecules are chiral or achiral. So first, this one. Again, kapag sinabi natin chiral, kailangan merong 4 na different group na naka-attach sa carbon. So, madali lang, right? So, for example, this one, 4 different groups ba ang naka-attach sa carbon? Yes, so this is chiral. Next, this one. 4 different groups ba ang naka-attach sa carbon? No. Kasi meron 2 hydrogen. So, this is not chiral. Next one. So, 4 different groups ba ang naka-attach sa carbon? Yes. So, different yan. So, it is chiral. Then, lastly, kapag naka-double bond, meaning, hindi na siya different, diba? Isa lang siya. So, this is not a chiral center. O, yung carbon. So, again, this is chiral, this is achiral, then chiral, and achiral. Additional guidelines for identifying chiral molecules. So, first, all bonds must be single bond. Kailangan single bond lahat. And then, next, presence of 2 or more like halogen atoms. Like, if ganito yung nakasulat, CH3, CH4, or CH2, will never involve chiral centers. Kasi nga, ibig sabihin, 2 na agad yung hydrogen, so hindi na siya different. Okay, dito 3, dito 4. And in some instances, merong mga ring form kayong may encounter. No? Paano kapag ring yung identify nyo if chiral or achiral? So, hatiin nyo yung ring. Ang ganyan. No? Hatiin nyo. Or paganoon yung hati. Depende kung nasaan si carbon na pagtitingan nyo if chiral or achiral. So, for example, in this one, a chiral molecule. This is a chiral molecule. Why? Kasi, same lang. Pag inikot mo siya dito, then kapag inikot mo siya dito, same structure. So, hindi na 4 different groups. Next, this is chiral molecule. Why? So, kapag ginito mo siya, and dito sa kabila, different. Right? Different. Kaya, chiral molecule ito. Next, a chiral molecule, kasi same. Right? Merong OH dito. Same lang. So, this is a chiral. Next, here. This is also a chiral molecule since kapag gininya mo siya, same pa din. Okay, so practice. kapag ring form. So, for example, ayan. So, yung naka-encircle, yan yung identify natin if chiral ba or achiral. So, in this picture, is this chiral or achiral? So, hatiin natin siya. For example, ganyan. Chiral or achiral? So, H yung isa dyan. Ito yung H. And then, bromine. 1, 2. Have 3. And we have 4. So, this is chiral. Next, this one. So, ito yung titingnan natin if chiral or achiral. So, we have 1, 2, hydrogen, 1, and 2. So, same. Same itong part na to. So, this is achiral. So, practice lang kayo para maintindihan niyo siya. Basta, kailangan 4 different groups ang naka-attach sa carbon. That is chiral. Kapag merong same, automatic, achiral. Next. So, dito. 2-bromo, 2-methylbutane. Is this chiral or achiral? Achiral. Bakit achiral? Kasi dalawang methyl group ang naka-attach sa carbon. No? They are the same. So, achiral agad yan. Next, ito. 1-bromo, 2-methylbutane. Is this chiral or achiral? This is chiral. Since 4 different groups ang naka-attach sa carbon. Next, isomerism review. When we say isomer or isomerism, again, diba, same molecular formula. Since ang mga carbohydrates, usually they have the same molecular formula no? Nag-iiba-iba lang sila sa structure. No? Yung arrangement, iba. So, when we say isomerism, each of 2 or more compounds with the same formula but a different arrangement of atoms in a molecule and different properties. And we have 2 main forms of isomer. First, we have the constitutional isomers. These are isomer in which the atoms have different connectivity. No? Different connection, different in bonding. No? Differ in bonding. And yung isa is stereoisomers. So, later on, we will be discussing stereoisomers. So, dito muna tayo sa constitutional isomers. So, under the constitutional isomers, we have 3. Skeletal isomers, positional isomers, and functional group isomer. Si skeletal isomers, so these are isomers with different carbon atom arrangements and different hydrogen atom arrangement. So, for example, we have butane. So, pareho sila ng molecular formula which is C4H10, right? They have the same molecular formula pero different yung arrangements ng carbon and hydrogens. So, ayan yung sa 2-methylpropane and sa butane. So, different arrangements, no? That is the skeletal isomers. Next is the positional isomers. So, isomers that differ in location of the functional group. Again, same molecular formula. We have example 1-butene and 2-butene. In means alkene, right? Meaning merong presence ng double bond. So, 1-butene, ibig sabihin, nasa carbon 1 nakalocate si double bond. 2-butene meaning nasa carbon 2 nakalocate si double bond. So that is the positional isomers, different in location of functional group. Next is functional group isomers. So these are isomers that contain different functional groups. So for example, butanal and butanone. Butanal by the word al, no, which is aldehyde, and then butanone, on means ketone. So same molecular formula but differ in functional group. So anong difference ni functional group sa positional isomerism? Dito sa positional isomers, same yung functional group but differ in location only. While dito sa functional group isomers, different yung mismong functional group. Next is stereoisomers. So this is one of the main form of isomerism. These are isomers that have the same molecular and structural formulas but differ in the orientation of atoms in space. So unlike kay constitutional, same lang sila sa molecular formula. So dito sa stereoisomers, same molecular formula and structural formula, but dito lang sila nagkaiba sa orientation, meaning sa directionality. No, merong directionality. Merong left, merong right, merong up, merong down. And under stereoisomers, we have enantiomers and we have diastereomers. First is enantiomers. These are stereoisomers whose molecules are non-superimposable images of each other, meaning they are chiral. Okay, mga mirror images. Sugars that are mirror images of one another. So we have two types of enantiomers, the D and the L. No, D for the right and the L for the left. So paano natin malalaman if D-glucose or L-glucose? So titingnan nyo yung farthest hydroxyl group, no, yung OH, from the aldehyde or ketone group. So this is the aldehyde group of the glucose. Yung farthest OH daw. So this is the carbon 1, carbon 2, carbon 3, carbon 4, carbon 5, and carbon 6. The farthest OH dito. Nasa right, itong farthest OH, that is why it is the glucose. And then, kapag L, so ito, nasa left, we call it L-glucose. And pansin nyo guys, itong part na to, no, itong carbon 2 to carbon 5 ni glucose, ito yung mga chiral centers. One way to figure out kung D and L glucose din is doon sa pinakamataas na chiral center. No? Since si carbon 5 yung pinakamataas na carbon center, dito mo ma-determine kung D or L ang isang molecule. And enantious means opposite. Okay, so meron tayong D, right, and meron tayong L for the left, for enantiomers. And very, very important na solo nyo yung structure ng glucose. No? So, ako tinatandaan ko yung OH. Okay? So, right, left, right, right yung OH ni glucose. Lahat naman CH2OH and then glucose aldehyde. Next is diastereomers. These are stereoisomers whose molecules are not mirror images of each other, meaning they are superimposable. So two sugars have identical molecular formula but have different arrangement of atoms and are not enantiomers. No, hindi siya D or L. That is diastereomers. So under the diastereomers, we have epimers, which contains two or more chiral center and differ only at a single chiral carbon. So for example, we have here the D-erythrose and D-triose. So ano lang yung pinagkaiba nila? Differ only at a single chiral carbon. So ito yung mga chiral carbons natin, right? Dito, same sila. Dito, hindi. No, ito yung mirror image sila. So, differ only at a single chiral carbon, epimers. Same as here, the glucose and the mannose. So, these are the chiral carbons. The farthest chiral carbon, doon madidistinguish kung D or L. So, both of them nasa right yung OH. So, this is the glucose and the mannose. In a single chiral carbon lang sila nag-differ dito. No? The rest, same. Next, under the stereomers pa rin, we have the cis and trans isomers. When we say cis, means on this side, meaning same side. Kapag trans, means on the other side or opposite or different. Okay? So, cis isomers, as you can see here, yung hydrogen and yung hydrocarbons on the same side. That is cis. While kapag trans isomer, opposite. Pag ganyan, pa-X. So, pag ganito, kapag trans. So again, under the stereoisomers, we have enantiomers and diastereomers. Enantiomers, yung D or L, no, mirror images sila, non-superimposable mirror, merong handedness. While si diastereomers, not mirror images of each other, and under it, meron tayong cis-trans isomers and yung epimers or most other diastereomers, no, with two or more chiral centers. Next, no, designating handedness using Fischer projection formula. So, Fischer projection, ito yon yung nakikita nyo kanina, Fischer projection. It is the 2D structural notation for showing arrangement of groups about chiral centers in molecules. And it is invented by Hermann Emil Fischer. He is a German chemist. So, itong Fischer projection, we also call it open chain form. No, ganyan siya, open chain. Open chain. So, paano gumawa ng Fischer projection? Carbon chain is always positioned vertically. So, pag ganyan ang carbon. Ito ang mga carbons. No, vertical. With the carbonyl, we have the carbonyl group at or near the top. No, the carbonyl is the carbonyl. Is the carbon chain, vertical. No, yung aldehyde or ketone nasa taas. And then again, kapag CHO, aldehyde, kapag CH2OH, ketone. So again, this is glucose, right? Glucose. And this is fructose. Structure of fructose. Dapat alam nyo din yung structure ng fructose. Although same sila, ito ng fructose dito sa part na to. No, same yan. Kaya madaling tandaan. So, ketone lang si fructose. Okay? So, COH, aldehyde, CH2OH, ketone. Aldose and ketose. Now, paano malalaman kung D or L? Doon sa pinaka farthest from the aldehyde and the ketone group and yung pinakamataas na chiral center. So, this is the first chiral center. No, ito naka-violet. Bakit siya yung first chiral center? Bakit hindi ito? Bakit hindi ito? So, dito, diba, kapag aldehyde, it is double bonded to oxygen. Tapos, ayan yung hydrocarbon. So, dito pa lang, hindi na siya chiral center. So, this is not a chiral center. So, kaya sa carbon 2 na siya chiral center. Gets po ba? Dito, dalawang hydrogen. So, hindi na siya chiral. So, dito na yung first chiral center sa carbon 2. Ito sa carbon 3. So, this is the chiral centers. Chiral centers. And, andito yung OH nung last chiral center, yung farthest to the aldehyde. So, this is the glucose. And this is the fructose. So, nagets po ba yung open chain? Next, properties of enantiomers. So, nearly all the properties of pair of enantiomers, yung D and L, are the same. No, they have identical boiling points. Also, melting points. And densities. No, because these properties depends on the strength of intermolecular forces, and intermolecular forces strength does not depend on chirality. Meaning, pare-pares naman sila tiba ng pagkakaband, iba lang doon sa arrangement ng OH. No, doon sa nagkaroon lang ng mirror image, no, nagkabaliktad lang. So, same pa rin yung bonding, kaya pares sila ng boiling point, melting point, and densities. And also, yung pair ng enantiomers, yung D and L, they have the same solubility in a chiral solvent. No? Same solubility in an achiral solvent. For example, we have ethanol, but differ in solubilities in chiral solvents, no? Such as D2-butanol. Now, saan sila nagkakaiba? We have two different properties. The interaction with plain polarized light. So, here we need polarimeter to know if it is, we need polarimeter to identify if it is dextrorotatory or alevorotatory. The dextrorotatory and the levorotatory. So, hindi ibig sabihin, for example, is si fructose. Hindi porket D-fructose ay automatic dextrorotatory na siya. No, si D-glucose ay levorotatory. Okay? Not all D enantiomers rotate plane polarized light in the same direction. Some D enantiomers are dextrorotatory, others are levorotatory, like the fructose. Depende doon sa plane polarized light, doon sa rotation, kaya kailangan natin ng polarimeter to know if it is dextrorotatory or levorotatory. And a plus or minus sign inside parenthesis is used to denote the direction of rotation of plane polarized light by a chiral compound. So, kapag right, clockwise, positive. No? Clockwise. Kapag levorotatory, negative, counterclockwise. So, kailangan natin ng polarimeter to identify. No, hindi basta makita nyo lang D-fructose ay automatic dextrorotatory na siya. No. No, may mga some instances na levorotatory pala siya. Kaya nga, there is no way of knowing which way an enantiomer will rotate light until it is examined with a polarimeter. Next is the interaction with other chiral objects. So, yun nga, different yung solubility nila in a chiral solvent, such as D2-butanol. This is the Fischer projection formulas and common names for D-aldoses, no, containing 3 to 6 carbon atoms. So, again, ito yung mga kailangan yung i-memorize na structure. Yung mga important structures. Ito, D-glyceraldehyde, D-ribose. You have D-glucose, and D-galactose. Ayan yung wag na wag nyong kakalimutan na structure, no, dito sa aldoses. And then for the ketoses, we have dihydroxyacetone and itong si fructose.